Do you know where Cowell got its colours from?
I don't really know, but they could take them straight back. I reckon it had a bit to do, they were Geelong colours, and I reckon there was a bit of a thing because Dark Peak were blue and white.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wasn't around here then, so yeah, because they ended up they had Geelong colours, and then they went to a green and white, was like a lime green, and yeah, they look terrible when you look back on it now. I've seen a few in op shops and stuff like that, but when they went to the dark green, it was more like a Collingwood style Guernsey, green and white stripes, so and almost, you know, a real dark. Yeah.
What sort of price they got on them in the op shops?
Um,
Are they like a collector's item, or?
Well, you can have them. Yeah, I know there's a few down the Kindy the kids wear, and a few getting around. Yeah, and they're from the 80s, so they're, you know, they're pretty durable. They didn't wear out. Yeah, but it's a sickly green, and I think that's the thing when you're a green team. It's hard to do anything with them. Yeah.
Do you know how Cowell got its colours?
Not really. I've heard of a few stories, but no, I don't actually know how they got their colours. Yeah.
Passes off, could be dangerous. Yeah, and Nick Turner.
We'll find out.
Yeah.
In goes Ree, out comes Elliot Claxton, passes off, could be dangerous.
Yeah,
and Nick Turner. Nick is his old man, and that was all done by just putting pressure on anyone that got the ball. So that was actually a very good play from Cowell forwards. And straight through the middle too. He's done well. That's his second goal for the day. So Lachlan Turner is his second goal for the day. His old man would be really happy. I'm calling him Nick. But anyhow, he's an outstanding young junior. He's still in Colts, captain of the Cowell Colts, and has a really good future ahead of him. Hopefully we can keep him here.
Do you know how they became green?
Maxine's going to tell you that.
Is that a Jackson?
I don't know. I wasn't there.
Greg Mullins.
Oh, right, yes, yes.
What I believe is that, well, to start off with, we stayed blue and white because the hierarchy, the blokes that were running the Cowell North Football Club, were not going to. They'd allow Cowell South to merge, but they wouldn't be allowed a name change to just Cowell. It had to be Cowell North.
Oh, so it was still Cowell North?
Yeah, initially. And then that's how it was when I left. And then subsequently, somewhere along the line, it became Cowell. And then that's probably, I think, when they changed their colours. They were having a lot of trouble, and apparently she ran into a lot of opposition over that. I wasn't there. Bobby Schultz was involved in it, I think, and a few others. But anyhow, she won the day. They changed their colours.
That was because of the netball. The colours of the netball clashed. The netballs wanted to go to green, so the football stuck to the netball's colours. If the kid had green, I suppose it was easier than having a different colour for the football, what it was.
Yeah. Dark Peak had blue and white Guernsey, the same. And it wouldn't have been so bad if we'd stuck to the dark blue, but I don't know why we end up going to a lighter blue. And that created problems, especially with the netball. I mean, our hoops were different to Dark Peaks. They were just, I'm not sure. They were blue and white, but
they had a V. They had a white. Dark Peak had a white V down the front of their Guernseys, blue Guernseys with a white V.
But the netballers said no. I think the league told them one club had to change. And I suppose Cowell lost the battle because
Yeah, the AFL run with 3 blue and white teams.
Amazing, isn't it?
When you deal with women too, gee, they seem to cause a bit of stirring.
And he's saying it from the heart.
That's why he's a single man now.
I happened to be president of the club that year.
Yep.
That all this was coming through, and it wasn't pretty.
Really? Is that right?
No. We were accused of being stubborn and different things.
I wanted to be a colour of VFL or AFL side too. You don't see green's not a popular colour for footballers, so I don't reckon it is. And there was plenty of other choices we could have made, but it's because the netballers wanted to have green for their tunics. We gave in to them, really, I suppose.
That's pretty much all I knew about it, was the fact that nobody could compromise on anything, so then they just went completely off the register and said, all right, we'll be green.
And the instigator of that was Maxine Biles, by the sound of it, because the basketballers were having, there was Dark Peak were blue and white, as well as us. And
Which the netballers already were, though.
Yeah, yep.
Right. So you were green and white, and the player and
was blue and white.
oh, wow, I can't remember that, but yeah, that's a bit weird, isn't it?
I actually like the jumper. I'm just going on the record as saying that.
It's not bad.
We gave in.
Well, I'm a Celtic supporter, so.
Yeah,
We've
yeah.
had a few domestics over there.
I think, I don't know whether you ran into her the other night. There was a lady there called Maxine Biles, Big Trev's wife.
Yeah.
She was there, and she would have been president of the netball that we had, and she's a very strong woman. So we had a bit of that's where we had quite a bit of the battle, I think.
She's only a little woman, but by hell she can talk.
I might have to go and see Maxine. What happened at Cowell, though? Because they were originally blue and white.
In 1971, which Cowell North and Cowell South amalgamated. But the netball had Cowell North and Cowell South too, but we were never consulted. So then we had twice as many netballers as we needed for the 1972 season. So at the end of 71, this amalgamation came. And of course they had to choose new colours. But I said, well, what are we going to do with two netball, like we've got two netball clubs. So we actually sent a team to Whyalla.
Oh, really?
Yes, and Anthea Schumann, who would be Brian Margaret's niece. She won the male medal in Whyalla. And that was the year that I got pregnant and didn't play, but went with them and umpired for them. And that made some of the other women, Terry Marshall was one from who I used to umpire with and became a close friend, even though she came from Cleve. We umpired a lot together. She said, this is no good. We've got to get that team back. We can't have people going off to Whyalla and being having B grade sides because we can't fill the numbers because our elite are going away. So that was the start of, and then the huge, what colour were they going to be? So I couldn't tell you what colour Cowell South was, but we looked at going to brown and gold, which was what the school colours were. But at that stage, Port Neale had a team with the Hawthorn Guernsey. So that wasn't on. A few years down the track, Port Neale and Anna Bay amalgamated. But at that time, brown and gold wasn't an option. And I have no idea really where the green and white came from, except that it was really originally a rugby colour, the Guernsey. And probably took a long time for there to be acceptance. But I remember we wore a green dress with a white collar, which was the first time they'd gone away from the, the three pleats. And
But I have heard from a couple of people, including Greg and Bob, that it was really driven by the netballers, the change of colours.
Well, we were just a bit pissed off about the way that those of us younger ones, about how they'd gone about it. I mean, the freaking nerve of them. And come and, come over and help us do the catering But we just were not even consulted. So then there was a big push to, right, well, if we're going to be one club, we need a whole fresh start here and some of it are bad attitudes. I go down the track. So the girls used to do work in the catering section and then they bought a bar fridge for the football club and didn't ask us. It was half our money. And there was a hell of a to do. No gate money.
Really? No gate money at all?
No gate money until a few of us, you know. Yeah, so one of my sons was just, you know, he says I was a woman before my time, but I did.
Certainly in Cowell you were, yeah.
I,
of course, it was Bob Schultz who was president, I think, at the time when you came to the colours. And what did Bob say when you?
I can't remember. Truly can't remember.
He says that he was against the idea.
Oh, there's a few of them, you know. Graham Ramsey, what is deceased too, that they were just bogged down in blinkers on, you know. The world was changing, only it had passed them by, and they were still only young men, really, at that point.
But you prevailed.
It wasn't just me. I mean, the South girls were livid. So you've not got a football team, but we've got a netball team. What do you mean? We've still got South netballers.
So when the one team went to Whyalla, what were they called?
We called ourselves Cow. We just called ourselves Cow, and the girls, the Cow South A grade, followed the football. But they were Cow.
Okay. Yeah. So it was really the Cow North girls went off to Whyalla.
Yeah, really.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
I
think there was a bit of a mixture, but we didn't actually stay so divided, the netballers. It was more about those who were free to do such a thing, didn't have children, and the girls that had kids and stayed home and played in what was the Cow South side and followed the football.
That's absolutely fascinating.
Yeah. So I don't think we didn't sort of go like this is their A grade and this is our A grade and we're taking off because we're not putting up with this. We went, how can we all play? So we sent quite a young side to Whyalla.
And they obviously did well.
Yeah. They did. Well, we didn't win the premiership, but we won the male medal. One of the girls won the male, and it was probably I don't know what would have happened if she'd stayed in Cowell. We'd kept playing in Cowell, but she was young and.
I guess with the colours, you also had that that thing with blue and white. I guess Dark Peak wore blue and white, which is fine for the blokes because I think Dark Peak had just a V, but with netball uniforms that would have been pretty hard to distinguish.
I remember seeing Trevor play in that, what was like Geelong colours, you know, and thinking they look like a little jailbirds. It's awful. Those hoops, they're awful. But I was in love. But I still said I thought that the Guernsey was awful.
We had the jailbird colours. Yeah.
But the green and white, because there's nobody that we knew in football except some little diverse club down in Adelaide that wore green and white. It actually came from a rugby colour, if I remember rightly. But it was everything we tried with stepping on somebody's toes. So let's start again.
Seaton's green and white.
Right, I can't tell you, but it was in Adelaide. There was
Seaton's green and white. Yeah. And of course, then
we could get a Guernsey. Obviously, we didn't have them made specially.
Yeah, okay.
But you know, you couldn't follow this AFL club, and you couldn't. At that stage, Anna Bay was black and white, and you know, Cleve was black and red, and red and blue, I think, was an option. And of course, Rover, they used to be brown and blue,
Chocolate blue was quite common because of the 27th Battalion. So I found out a couple of weeks ago. A World War I connection.
It was ghastly. But no one wanted to, that was a Rover team, so there were people that didn't want to go, backwards. But that was considered because the school, the obvious thing to do was to go brown and gold. But Port Neal, so when Port Neal folded, they thought, oh, but nobody liked brown and gold anyway. Really.
It's a bit funny.
Well, Hawthorn, you know, in the VFL, but even the school uniform was always, it was dreadful.
No comment.
I wish I'd been a fly on the wall, Bob.
Or you knew Maxine a bit?
Yeah. She was well, our neighbours pretty much. So yeah, we used to share farm their place, and yeah, used to catch up with them a fair bit. But all her boys were always, well, and she had a daughter too. But yeah, they were always pretty much well older than me. So
That Big Trev was a big bloke?
he was a huge bloke. Yeah, Dad always used to say that he was the only bloke that he ever saw lift a wall bale up on the back of a truck with his bare hands. He said he was just a monster of a man. But that was his undoing as well. He always had a crook back and yeah.
And in prison bars, he just looked monstrous, I guess. And
Yeah.
That's why his wife didn't really go much on it.
Yeah. What I remember, like he was a big man, big shoulders, but he had long arms, really long arms too. So yeah, it was just the sort of things you remember about old blokes like that.
Well, he was the leading goal kicker for at least 1 year.
Yep.
In the league, I think.
Yeah.
I'll show you a photo of him.
Yeah, go on there.
Right, somewhere here. There's a photo down. He's going to be there. He is there, but he's actually about this wide in the shoulders, and but it's in here somewhere. He kicked 7 goals, 14 himself one day. Yeah, not that year, but later on.
How'd he go with County Jervois and Mortlock?
Yeah, he kicked his fair share. Yeah, because once he got under the ball, you couldn't move him. And especially if he didn't have to get off the ground, if he could get and he could run, you know, for all his bulk, he could run faster from goal to goal. He'd beat me, and I was like a hare compared to him. And I'd get him at the start, but in the end, he'd mow me down.
And Maxine is a bit of a force of nature.
Yeah. Yeah.
I never thought about it at the time, but I know that I was a huge embarrassment to my... Trevor was one of nature's gentlemen. He was a gentle giant. He was beautifully mannered and quiet. Please don't think he was a weak man. He wasn't.
No, he was famously a strong man. But
I wouldn't have ever stayed married to a weak man. But most of the time Trevor didn't really care, so long as I was fulfilled and happy, because he knew that, I knew that if my mental energy wasn't channeled in a healthy way, I would get sick. I know that now. I didn't think, but he was quite wise about saying, I think you better go back to netball and I'll stay home with the children because I hate this football training now. And so, but if he
So he actually retired, or?
Yeah. His father got stuck into him and said he did a whole seeding with a broken or chipped bone in his ankle.
Really?
And his father said, you're a man of responsibility, you've got children, you know, you just can't do this.
Right.
So, and then he didn't even go to football, because if he couldn't play, he didn't want to go.
Really?
No. He didn't go again until the boys were old enough to play, really. He got involved with cricket.
Yeah.
And he had been a great committee man and been very involved with cricket and football. But when he gave it away, he couldn't bear to watch.
My father was the same. In fact, Greg Mull was the same. He was the same. As soon as he retired, he couldn't bear to watch.
Yeah. So until the boys got older and played, he was happy for me to go. And I know now that he was a wise man. He really just sort of waited for me to grow up a bit, I think.
Well, he's a farmer, he probably...
Yeah, we met when I was only 17 when we first met, and my parents said, "What a lovely boy," and I went, "Oh, but he's so old."
How old was he?
He must have been... Oh, he was old for me. He was 24, he was 7 years older, which was old.
When you're 17.
And I remember him turning 30, and I was playing basketball. That's it, basketball. And your husband's 30? 30? I mean, it's so amusing now, but I said, it's okay, he still works all right.
Yeah.
But just a different era.
That's
So I was married at just 21.
Oh, that was pretty common too. My mother was married at 21.
28 on our honeymoon, I
Yeah,
guess.
there you go. Yeah. Oh, that's the modern way. In fact, you were ahead of your time in a lot of ways.
I mean, I was... The first year of my marriage was quite difficult because I worked from Whyalla for about 6 months and then I stopped working because it was just impossible. There was only the two of us on the farm. So he was an only son and I just had to be around to move machinery. And the first year was difficult, but I had a very, very happy marriage. Probably for 25, 30 years. But I was also, by then I was back at work. And,
Actually, working for the Bureau of Statistics, of course, gave you a bit of an insight into the country as well.
Huge.
And of course, numbers were a lot bigger then than they are now. You would have seen actually that fall away.
Oh, I mean, I got so that I would know what was going on with the books when I drove in. And we saw farms, you know, amalgamate just like football teams because it was too expensive to farm, or there wasn't, and not enough return.
Economies of scale, yeah.
So, I mean, Trevor and I did a bookkeeping course. It was a TAFE course, and Trevor was the manager operator, and I kept all the books. And we worked out our gross margins and we worked out optimum seeding time, and that particular year it rained and rained. But we were hoping that our younger son, well, I didn't hope, I didn't mind what they did. They all went away to school. But Trevor, we were pretty sure that Nathan, the young one, would farm because he'd followed his father around since 2. But he said, "I don't want to be a farmer. Dad works too hard for not enough money." So then we had a big, big wet, and Trevor said, "I've had a guts for this." So we had no succession. If we'd had a succession plan, it was time for us to buy more machinery, go into sustainable agriculture, and there was. But without a succession plan, why would you go into that sort of debt? So we sold the farm and bought a motel and a restaurant.
Really? Whereabouts?
At Kadina.
Oh, that's how you came to Kadina.
Yeah, that was in 1998. We sold in 97, I think, and bought the motel in 98.
Are you a life member of the Kadina Club?
No, I'm not a life member, no, but I umpired for them for 20 years. I wasn't unhappy when I was very happily married but I needed more. But then, as I said, Trevor not being so I go to netball training and I was involved with netball. I was on the school council and I went to Chicken and Chablis and I was asked and I was elected to the hospital board. So Trevor said, "So, congratulations, what are you giving up?" And I went, he said, "Car's not going to Cowell any more days of the week." No discussion.
Like you say, he was a strong man.
He's a strong man. A wise man.
Yeah.
Wise man in the football setting too. You know, he'd been coached outside of Cowell. He was educated at Urbray. So he'd played footy over there. He was given the opportunity to go out with Sturt, but all he wanted to do was farm. And was more than happy to play.
What did he think about the change in colours?
think he was. I don't think he thought much of green and white, but he could see that if we were going to have an identity, Cow South, Cow North, we couldn't have one team whistling the tune, and we could no longer proceed ignoring the netballers and the women. So no, I don't think he was really enamoured with green and white, but he looked at the bigger picture and thought, okay, so this was a whole new concept to have Cow South and Cow North, who were like lived in the same town, but were, you know, the enemy. They're going to amalgamate, and these women are going to start expecting a lot more of us. All of us, things fall into. But I know, I'm very aware that in the beginning, so this sounds very much about me, but for me to become part of the community, to have enough stimulus and enough challenge to cope with being a farmer's wife, despite my total lack of preparation for the role, it was the way that I felt that I was contributing and belonged.
And you left your mark.
Well, perhaps not. Perhaps this is my. But I know I did upset a lot of people. I had people come in. I did. I had a lady come up to me at a funeral very long. She said, "Oh, I remember you," and I went. She said, "I remember when you stopped those blokes smoking at our sports meetings, you made." And I said, "Oh, did I?" So I do remember saying to one man one day, "To hear me you speaking, you can speak to your wife like that. Don't you dare speak to me like that." And my friend Suzanne was like really embarrassed. And my sons, when I went into the football club and said, "If you dare give my underage son alcohol, I will have your guts for garters." And I meant it. But the boys, "Oh, Mum, just don't come. Just go to netball. Just stay away. Just don't come." And then the local policeman, he was behaving badly, barracking like an ugly parent. And I said, "You should know better. Leave now, unless you can behave." And years later, he came to the motel because he was working in, and his wife, with great hilarity, said, "Do you remember when you sent Richard off?" I didn't really.
Well, I'd say you probably have left your mark.
Yeah, well, they've left their mark on me.
Oh, and that's nice. A nice point to say thank you very much. You've been great. And great for the club too, I must say.